This is in response, this question, what is the crisis of leadership, is in response to a video I put up actually last year where I talked about my real concern about the growing crisis of leadership. And there are a number of ways that you can look at this. I saw a great post by a colleague of mine, Angela Hunter, and friend, who talked about the real lack of kindness in leadership, and that was a real crisis in the leadership space. And I would agree with that. But when I was talking about what is the crisis of leadership, this is my perspective. If I look at the very big global picture, my sense is that we simply don't have enough good and great leaders to support our people, our communities, our organizations, our governments. Pick an institution or a group. There's simply not enough good and great leadership. Now, of course, there are amazing leaders out there. I just feel like there's not enough of them. And so how does that happen? And I think what I feel like is that our talent pipeline specifically for leadership is very thin. And there are lots of factors for that. People have left the workforce over the last sort of 6 or 7 years. We had massive changes in the way of work and that sort of thing. People opted out of the leadership path because they wanted a different kind of life after they reevaluated following, the pandemic and that sort of thing. And so we've had lots of reasons why, some good and great leaders have left. And we have this thin talent leadership pipeline. And as a consequence, I feel like in lots of organizations that I've worked with or I'm talking to, that there are many people who've been elevated to the next level of recognized leadership role, maybe earlier than we would have done. So they're a little bit green. We would have liked them to have a little bit more exposure to leadership or a little bit more opportunity to learn a little bit more or to be mentored a bit more, lots of things. So we've got this slightly undercooked layers of leadership, throughout an organization, right from the very top. And then the ability for us to fill a role, should it become vacant, is also less than ideal. And so, for example, if you needed to replace your executive team, how easy would that be to do from within your organisation or even from across your industry? If you needed to grow your executive team or grow your senior leadership team because you've got this amazing new opportunity, how easy would that be to do from within your ranks? So I think a couple of things are contributing to this. So we don't have enough good and great leadership. We don't have enough in the pipeline to take advantage of great opportunities or changes that might happen in the organisation. And I think it starts much, much earlier. So I don't believe that when we think about our future leadership, that we kind of cast the net wide enough in the first instance. And by that, what I mean is, often I talk to organisations and they talk about their high talent program and their future leaders program and that sort of thing, and they pick out specific individuals and they give them specific, learning opportunities and training opportunities and mentoring opportunities. And that's great, but it's a very limited number of people. I wonder, in fact, I'm pretty sure that there is real benefit in actually going, just about anyone in our organisation could be a future leader in some way. Wouldn't it be great if we could expose all of our people to those key leadership foundations? Because different people are going to thrive and flourish at different points in their career. Why would we narrow our potential pool of future leaders so early when others may become more obvious as future leaders a little bit later in their career? So I think there's real value in actually investing our focus of developing future leaders or developing leaders more broadly across our organisations. And, you know, my philosophy is that everybody actually is a leader, because you're a leader of self. You know, you get to choose how you show up. You get to choose how you participate in a team. You get to choose how you contribute, how you influence, how you share information, how you support other people, you know, and so on. So everybody actually, I believe, is a leader. So why shouldn't we give them leadership skills? So if we were to cast the net wider and equip more of our people with insight into what leadership is, how they might contribute as a leader in lots of different ways, whether it is leading people or leading, you know, a practice within your organization, or being a program leader or a thought leader, or, you know, there's so many ways. I just think we create so much more opportunity to grow and develop more good and great leaders now and into the future. The other thing, though, that I think contributes in some ways to the current crisis of leadership is that there's not a sufficient recognition by people who already hold leadership roles that they have a clear and primary responsibility to grow more leaders, to grow the people around them as leaders, to share the benefit of what they have learned about leadership, the mistakes that they have made, what they learned from that, the things that they did well, what they learned from that, to help people to identify their strengths that they could bring into their leadership presence. And so I think if we were more specific about our expectations of current leaders, that they're expected to grow more leaders, then that would also foster, you know, this a much more broad and developing cohort of future leaders. And so I think that, you know, leaders need to get out of the doing and being the expert. They need to get into leading, and part of that is growing more leaders. So lots more mentoring, lots more role modeling, lots more coaching, so that they're kind of activating all of the greatness around them, not just sort of being the leader in a, you know, I'm in this role, therefore I'm going to execute in this way. One of the big responsibilities of leadership is to grow more leaders. Otherwise, who do you hand the baton to? And then how do you go to your next role if you haven't created a successor or several successors, as my dad used to say, an heir and a spare? And I think maybe these days you'd probably need about 3 people who are in the line of succession for every single one of your leadership roles. That's a lot of people, and hence cast the net wide, you know, give them opportunity to be exposed to leadership concept. They can opt in or out at any point in time in terms of, do I really want to be a hierarchical leader, or would I like to do something else like lead a portfolio or an area of practice within the organization? You know, and yeah, I just feel like we can create so much more opportunity. If we don't, then the crisis of leadership, not having enough good or even great leaders, is going to grow. Our need for good and great leadership is growing every single day. Are we growing enough leaders to satisfy that need? And I don't think we are.